The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good morning, everyone. We've got about a minute here before we're going to start, so we'll let some people join for the next 30 seconds or so, and then we'll jump right into things here. All right, guys, good morning. This is Matt Hein, and you are on the Naviant Government webinar for the top 5 local government best practices. Today is Wednesday, February 28th, so hopefully you're in the right place. We've got a half hour, hopefully a high-octane presentation, so the cup of coffee are in place, hopefully on your side. This recording will be shared out within 48 hours, so you have record of that. The phone lines are muted. There is an availability to add questions as we go along, so feel free to do that. And we'll try to jump into things right away here. Again, like I said, this is Matt Hein, and I'm going to be starting things off for you here. Along with me is Merrill Weber, who's also an account executive alongside me here on the government team for Naviant. So we have a specific practice for that. If you're new to OnBase, hopefully you'll be able to glean something out of this presentation over the next half hour. If you're used to it or a veteran of the OnBase world, hopefully this is a refresher for you within this product. So as we get started, just a brief agenda. We're going to show a little overview as far as Naviant and OnBase. I'm going to speak about that. I'm going to jump into then some documents and records management discussion within OnBase, and then we're going to talk a little bit about open records and constituent access, also known as FOIA, or the Freedom of Information Act. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about agenda management. I'll transition over to Merrill. We'll finish up with electronic plan review and then the Esri integration for OnBase. So here we go. Before we get going here, I'm just going to share a little bit about Naviant. If you're not familiar with us already, we're just based just outside of Madison here, and we work within the world of enterprise information management, which encompasses the things that are on your screen there below: document management, workflow, OCR, or optical character recognition, are some of the terms used within this space. If you're if you're within Wisconsin, we do have an existing state of Wisconsin contract. We also have the cooperative purchasing agreement that's available for you. If you are a government entity that is under 250,000 people, you also have availability for the local government pricing bundle, which is discounted pricing off of the standard OnBase model. And in addition to that, we are part of the GSA schedule. So a couple pricing things to get those out of the way. Most of our customers are located here in the United States. We've done some global implementations throughout Europe, China, and Latin America. Like I mentioned, Madison, we're just based outside of Madison for a corporate side of it. And in addition to that, Naviant, we've also got a physical records division, so state and federally certified space here at our headquarters. And then we have the Naviant Group, which leads our kind of our consulting division, and our company methodology is based off of a process-first methodology. So don't let the technology dictate what you're doing. Your processes will dictate that. Process review, things of that nature is really how we engage with our customers. That's a brief overview on us. Kind of our NASCAR slide next. Obviously a huge government presence here, state, local, Indian nations, several clients there you'll see in the second column, and some of our commercial space, healthcare, insurance. So really think anybody, if you've got your virtual hand up here, for anybody that has any type of paper, manual-based processes, checklists, those types of things, those are our customers, and those are the people that we work with on a day-to-day basis. Within government itself, from an OnBase perspective, so if you're not familiar, Highland is the manufacturer. OnBase is the actual product, a single product. It stands for one database, and encompasses roughly 300 different capabilities or modules. Within that, we obviously don't have time to show you all of those today, but within that space and very specific to the government vertical, we're going to see a lot of different areas or different departments that we can engage within: finance and administration, health and housing and human services, planning, public works, justice, public safety, just to name a few. And then there's subsets of this. So the OnBase software is really designed to be, once you've got that base system and you own it, it really becomes viral within that organization for the areas that you use it. So you might be adding modules as you go, you might be adding client licenses, and then you're either doing the professional services or have become self-sufficient enough to handle the professional services for the implementations within those departments, or you're relying on us to help out with that, or some combination of both. So big proponents of self-sufficiency. We're going to talk about a couple of these areas as we move through the presentation today to give you a flavor for what those are. And again, if we want to go in any greater depth or any greater detail, our contact information will be on the last slide that Meryl will show. So jumping right into it, I'm going to start off here with records management. One key note within OnBase, and records management sometimes gets used in this vernacular. Anytime anything's ingested, scanned into, uploaded to OnBase, the history of that document is tracked from the minute that's ingested into the system. So we're tracking the history, who opened it, who touched that document at any one point in time, and we're also tracking the workflow history. Sometimes people will use that in that records management terminology. Separate of that, obviously, OnBase or separate of that, OnBase has a specific record management functionality. And a lot of times that is either going to be event-based or a date-based item or transaction. A lot of times we'll see it in HR for when somebody's hired up until the point where they're no longer employed or have retired from the organization. That tracking from that minute that they have left the organization is a lot of times recorded within records management. So we're declaring something, just give you a little brief overview here. We're declaring something, we're starting a process. In that HR example, we're hiring somebody, we're managing all that content, employee reviews, anything that happens within the life cycle or HR life cycle of that employee, and then we're posting some type of event that has happened at the end. I'll show that in a little bit. We're retaining that information, and then we're either destroying that information based on retention schedules, 5, 7, 20 years, whatever your organization's retention is. Give an example within OnBase. Once we've got a employee record that's stored within OnBase, posting the event or determining what had happened at that point in time. OnBase has that ability to do that. In this case, we're clicking on a separation from the organization. And OnBase also has the ability from a foldering standpoint to show the status. So what happened, when it happened, in this example, the effective date of destruction within those documents that are located within the employee record. So a little short overview, but again, wanted to give you a flavor for what that is. Transitioning next is Freedom of Information Act. So when we have constituents, tribal members, whoever within our organizations that are asking or requesting information, a lot of times that information can be very complex. So that's coming in a variety of fashions, email, phone, in person. A lot of times it's sensitive information, sometimes requiring attorney interaction. We're having some type of review process. Redaction is a big thing within public records requests a lot of times, so Social Security numbers, addresses, names, things of that nature. And then how are we distributing this information? How are we fulfilling that request at the end of the process? So Highland or OnBase has created a solution. We've seen enough of this over the years that it warranted that. And in this case, we're actually completing or gathering the information via what's called an eForm or a Unity form in the OnBase world. So we're requiring certain fields are being completed. We're creating an asterisk around those. And thus the data that we're receiving is being filled out by that constituent or person requesting the information, so it's making us more efficient on the front end. Once we've got that information within OnBase, we're populating what's called a WorkView record. And in this case, we're just showing the submittal, so the request submittal. We're time stamping and date stamping that. You can see the green kind of highlighted left side of your screen. And then we're moving through the process. So just like we would be today in a paper-based or manual-based world, that request is being approved at some level. Somebody's approving that. And typically, we're routing that via workflow within OnBase. Records are collected at that point in time. If they're stored in OnBase, great. Obviously, easier to compile that information. We're completing some type of review, and then we're completing that transaction. Again, time stamping that. This is a very nice visual way to kind of see that process as it moves through WorkView within OnBase. And again, managing the content along with that. Redactions, I mentioned that a little bit before. In this case, we're redacting the name. On the civil complaint, there are ad hoc redaction capabilities within OnBase, and there's also automated. So if you've got a specific form and you know a certain area that needs to be redacted within that form, OnBase also has those capabilities. And then we're distributing information. So in this case, we're using something called ShareBase, which is an electronic file sync and share capability, similar to like a Dropbox or a Box, just more on steroids in this case. We can push information out to people. We can then allow that information to only be available for a certain amount of time. It's not an indefinite period. That's being controlled within ShareBase. Another nice feature, we've had several customers use this. I think of one off the top of my head within legal for case management, and this is the calendaring view. So rather than managing this information on a separate written calendar or within your Outlook solution, this allows you to go in on a weekly basis and see your records requests as they compile through the week, another way to manage that process. And last but not least, reporting dashboards. Reporting tool that's located within OnBase. We can manage the number of requests. So in this case, how many court documents do we have? How much general information? Anytime we have information or data, obviously we can run analytics off of it, which is what these dashboards from a graphical sense are showing us. And then we can also say, okay, where in the queue are we? So how many records collections in progress do we have? How many records are we processing at this point in time? Who's doing the processing? A lot of times this solution is volume based, so if you've got 1 to 2 records requests a month, this might not be a great fit for OnBase. You have higher volumes or higher quantities is where we tend to see this being utilized. And then last but not least, I wanted to jump into agenda management. So we have several customers using agenda management today. It's been a very hot topic here over the last several years. I'm going to give a brief overview next on kind of what that is. But what we're seeing typically for people that are looking at agenda management is agenda requests. So similar to FOIA, we've got people, the requests are coming in a variety of fashions. We're going to manage that process up front. Again, with the Unity form, I'll show that in a little bit. But we've got inconsistent approvals. We don't have an audit trail. We've got somebody within the organization a lot of times that's creating this. In addition, we've got a lot of manual packet assembly. So people are stapling information together. We're getting last minute submissions. We're pulling staples out. We're adding information in, blowing through paper, and we really don't have transparency to the whole process. So in OnBase, OnBase has created a solution that incorporates a lot of these different functions into one solution. So we like to group it into 3 different buckets: a pre-meeting, a meeting, and then a post-meeting type of category. So again, that item creation, we're using an eForm or a Unity form to gather that data. So we're creating that digitally, and then we're pushing that out to the people from an approval standpoint through OnBase workflow for those approvals. I'll show that in a little bit using Outlook integration in some cases. And then we're creating that packet. So we're taking Agenda Manager and putting that into the packet itself, stored within OnBase. And then we're, in some cases, we're having council members or tribal council that's using their iPad to view that information prior to the meeting, create notes, annotations on those documents, things of that nature. Then when we move into the meeting itself, we're using the OnBase Minutes client to be able to manage that process. So all the way from roll call to adjournment, all of those steps in between, we're recording those digitally. We're recording votes in a lot of cases. And we're also then recording or have the ability to do media streaming. So video, audio, bookmark the actual events that happen within that meeting to a specific time within that video. Which has been a really nice feature that people have been kind of waiting for a while. And then voting. Last but not least, this came online last September, the ability for our council members to vote off of an electronic device, gather that information. We can actually force the actual vote in some cases if they're not paying attention, which has been a really nice feature. And then last but not least, how we're extending out information either to our tribal members or constituents post-meeting. So variety of our customers have chosen to do this and set up their own web pages with their own banners and the way that they portray that information on their website. But again, minutes, video, and we'll show that here in a second or two. Value proposition, I won't read through all of these different bullet points. Again, encompassing a system that obviously is looking to make the process more efficient. So we say single click a lot of times in here, paperless distribution, those types of things. We're helping to manage that, make a lot of times clerks more efficient at their jobs. This isn't a replacement tool by any means. We're streamlining that process and giving people access to information, hopefully quicker. Within Agenda itself, just a couple screenshots here to give you an idea of how that looks within the OnBase world. So very Microsoft-esque look and feel into creating a new meeting. In this example, we can do meeting searches on your lower left-hand side of the screen. And then we've got transparency or visibility into the actual workflow items themselves. So from a status standpoint, we can see where things are at within that process. If we're looking to create an agenda item similar to FOIA, we're going to create that in an electronic form. In this case, we've got a trampoline facility that we're looking for a permit for. That user is entering the information associated with that, fiscal impact, and then attaching any other additional items. Maybe a staff report in this case, any other supporting documents. We're attaching it to that agenda item. We're clicking save, and then via OnBase workflow, we're routing that information to the appropriate party. So you would set these rules up as a user itself. You would set up the language or what's used in the narrative of the email. A lot of times then we can send that to somebody else from an approval standpoint. If not, we can reject that back. In this case, maybe we're pulling up a document just on the bottom right-hand corner, a staff report. So we're using Microsoft Word in this case, leveraging that tool to be able to retrieve that information, view that document, agree or disagree, obviously, with what's stated within there. So that's one way that we're using Outlook within OnBase. In addition to that, we're running our minutes through something called Minutes Manager. I've referenced this before. That ability is to track that meeting, and once we start, timestamps, when the roll call happens, when there might be a petition report from the mayor, we can move these items systematically up within or back within the actual agenda of that meeting, depending on people's schedules and timing and those types of things. So it's very flexible from a solution side. And then they're tracking motions. So we're tracking motions, we're tracking who voted, when they voted within that process, all stored within OnBase. In addition to that, I mentioned Agenda to Go. This is just a screenshot from an iPad that shows that ability to be able to retrieve documents associated with an agenda item directly from your iPad, which is a very nice function. And then last but not least, that Agenda Online piece. So we've got constituents today. We're looking to extend out, be more transparent as an organization to the people that support us. Very plain Jane look at it for an OnBase Agenda Online to see the meeting types, the dates, links to the packet, links to the minutes. Maybe there's media associated with that. If there is, this just gives you an example of an actual agenda, how that video would be portrayed potentially within your website. It's a very nice functionality that exists within Agenda. We've seen that as a huge growth area, like I mentioned before. And if you have any further information, let us know. I'm going to transition it over to electronic plan review. Meryl's going to take over from here, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. So best practice number 4 that we're going to discuss today is electronic plan review. So to set the stage where we fit into the overall building process and the plan review is in that plan review, resubmission, and approval portion of the process. So whether you have a permitting system or not, we can work with it. We can either give portal access through OnBase through your website, or we can integrate with your permitting system to obtain the application data and documents that need to go through plan review. And then again, at the end of the process, communicate back with your permitting system to let that application complete the permit and then continue on through the building process. So just to give a little bit of background, it's estimated that of the 40,000 U.S. state and local jurisdictions that enforce building codes and standards, just over 5 use technology in codes administration and enforcement processing, or building plan review processes for that matter. Less than 1,000 of those actually use technology in the plan submission, review, and tracking process or storage, and even less than 600 jurisdictions accept electronic plans. And then to take that one step further, less than 400 have true integrated electronic plan review systems implemented for this entire process. So where OnBase can help is the OnBase electronic plan review enables government agencies to automate plan submission, review, and approval processes. So by leveraging OnBase, we can reduce paper plans and help submitters avoid incomplete submittals to reduce those resubmissions. Now, from a reviewer standpoint, approval times are also shortened, and comment letters and markups are consolidated through the review process. So thinking about these in 2 different buckets, as a submitter, via a user-friendly website, you can import plans and supporting documents directly into OnBase, where they're automatically organized and routed to the appropriate reviewers. And then throughout that whole review process, that submitter can log into that same portal and have visibility as to where in the review process their plans are at. As a reviewer, staff can simultaneously review plan submissions through real-time collaboration and automated comment tracking and reviews, as well as compare submitted plan sets until the plans are in conformance. Plan sets are tracked electronically through the review and revision process. Email notifications are set up to notify reviewers of changes and required approvals, as well as timely reminders. And then after the review is complete, users approve final plans by applying a digital stamp, seal, and signature, and the plans are immediately stored in OnBase for future fast retrieval. OnBase can integrate with many permitting systems, not limited to CityWorks, Tempest, Meritage, and Acela. The permitting system will share with OnBase the project name, permit number, and any data related to that project. And then once the plan review is complete, OnBase will communicate back to the permitting system the project status data. So just to give a better idea of what I'm talking about and how this could work, I've assembled a handful of screenshots for you. So let's start with the submitter experience. Keep in mind, in this example, we are not linking OnBase to a permitting system. So in that case, the submitter will log into this OnBase public access portal that's linked to your website. And once they're logged in, the user will add their project information, site address, and any additional notes or comments. From there, they can, once that basic information is gathered, they can move to the next tab and upload the plans related to that particular project. OnBase will gather, as you can see, the discipline and sheet type information. So once those plans are uploaded, the documents will be routed in workflow to the appropriate reviewers automatically. When the submitter clicks at the bottom left-hand corner, Submit for Review, the project plan with all that associated data and documents will get routed to the program administrator to start the review cycle. So that's what brings us to here. As the program administrator in OnBase, you can see the list of all available projects can be found on the far left. In this case, we have just one project that we're showing. When you click on that project, based upon where in the process the project is, as the program administrator, you have different tools that are found above that will become available to you, such as Start Review Cycle, Reassign Documents, Stamp, Publish, etc. Now, from a reviewer experience, OnBase has a dedicated viewer with a variety of markup and collaboration tools, everything from highlighting to measurement tools, as well as a compare feature, which allows you to quickly compare and recognize any changes that have been made to a plan. And within OnBase ePlan Review, we can also compose adjudication letters. These letters are configured to have your logo and formatted as you see fit. As plan sets continue to get marked up by different reviewers, Adobe Bookmark and comment features are a native functionality within the plan review tool, so keep that in mind. And then as a reviewer, you have the ability to publish any comments in the marked plan sets back to the portal at any time for the submitter to review, make any changes, and re-put into the process. Upon viewing a marked plan set, we have a compare tool that I mentioned a couple minutes ago, which allows quick and easy comparison of the revisions that have been made throughout the review, as shown here with the handicap parking spaces. And at the end of the process, through OnBase, you can approve and stamp final plan sets. Upon stamping the plan sets, OnBase will immediately store those electronically, eliminating the need to hold a paper copy for future retrieval. So at the beginning, I spoke about a large number of municipalities that are still in the paper world for this plan review process today. Automating your plan review process can speed up reviews and allows for better collaboration through OnBase, which is a great place to start if you're new to the OnBase world, or an awesome way to leverage your OnBase investment throughout the organization. So our fifth and final best practice that I'm going to run through is the Esri integration with OnBase. So for those of you that are not aware, Esri built a mapping and special analytics tool. GIS, also known as Geographic Information System, is what Esri uses to make faster decisions and gain efficiency via mapping data points. Think data meets geography. So with data, we all know comes documents. So wouldn't it be nice to be able to have documents associated with a map? This is where the Esri integration becomes very valuable. OnBase users have the ability to link documents to Esri map layer attributes through keywords. So when you're working in Esri, there are different map layers, much like that of a transparency. Different layers to show different map attributes. There are also static links that can be found in Esri. The benefit to leveraging your Esri investment through the OnBase integration is gaining the ability to dynamically expose OnBase content to any of your Esri users. OnBase will allow for real-time geocoding and linking of OnBase documents to specific Esri map layers through keywords. Sorry about that. OnBase can also plot and retrieve associated content and cross-references right from the Esri map. So on the other side of the spectrum, OnBase users have the ability to auto-index while in OnBase using associated map data to dynamically link to Esri. Standard integration capabilities include the ability to import documents, initiate workflows, and create eForms, all from the map that the users are currently working in. So to paint a picture, let me show you some examples. As shown on this screen, users can map or plot documents right from the OnBase Unity client. So this example here is showing a document retrieval with an audio insurance, as you can see on the top left. Specifically, a notice of loss that we want to be able to map as points to see where geographically all those losses are happening. On our hit list, native OnBase, you can see is highlighted in blue in the background. So when we click View Map at the top of the screen, OnBase will show us this dynamic map and color display of the 6 OnBase documents as pinpoints on the Esri map. From that map, you can click on each point to find the documents related to that location, as you can see at the bottom right. It's this sort of data or documents that you can assess much faster through visualization on a map. With the OnBase integration, you no longer have multiple applications to make your business decisions. This is another example of plotting documents on a map. In this case, we're just showing a different Esri layer. Now on the flip side, we could be in Esri and want to view any related documents. So here's a plan and land management example where by clicking any parcel, we get a hit list on the right of all the related documents to that particular parcel number that are being stored in OnBase today. So beyond viewing documents, you have native OnBase functionality through Esri to retrieve and import documents right from Esri, or attach other documents, or even create forms. Again, making life easier on your Esri users. Something I wanted to bring up, new to OnBase 17 is now OnBase, or Esri supports a specific OnBase layer within the mapping tool. So this layer allows OnBase documents to appear on a map without any intervention by a user. So this is showing a heat map showing traffic incidents around Highland software. We do not require any additional clicks or searches, as this functionality is through OnBase's own layer in Esri. Now to take this one step further, by clicking that show button, we can show exact icons that are linked to individual incidents. And by clicking on those incidents, a document can be retrieved right through OnBase. So OnBase is an easy way to give your GIS users access to the OnBase content that they need directly from the maps they use every day, eliminating inefficient application switching, leveraging your OnBase and Esri investments, and increasing user productivity and decision-making through this unique integration. There's a lot that I didn't talk about today with Esri, so please reach out to Matt and I, and we'd be happy to discuss your particular use cases for this integration. So real quick, I wanted to, as Matt mentioned earlier, for those of you in Wisconsin, we have different procurement options, whether it's through our multiple state contracts, Wisconsin Cooperative Purchasing Agreement, specific local government pricing options, and our SIRE conversion. So these options allow you to go to purchase without having to go to RFP. For anyone outside of Wisconsin, please note we have other state contracts and that we are on the GSA schedule. So we'd be happy to discuss procurement options with you so you aren't required to go to RFP or bid process. And then feel free to search our website, www.naviant.com. When you get there, if you go to the resources page, you can find videos, white papers, and case studies that are specific to government. And then I just want to highlight, we are traveling. We will be at a couple different hosting lunch and learns, be at a couple different conferences around the area. So we'll send this out, the recording, so you can jot down those dates or feel free to ask Matt and I. We'd love to see you at our events. And again, we are hosting our Naviant Summit this October here in Madison, October 15th and 16th. So put that date on your calendar as it is free of charge. So thank you very much. I know we're wrapping up here. Any questions, feel free to still ask them, and we would be happy to get in touch with you after the webinar. So thank you again for your time. We look forward to talking with you all soon, and have a great rest of the day.